Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us in Professional Etiquette. Build your career on it. We appreciate the fact that you're attending and listening, and all of these materials will be given to you at the end as well, the recording and the handouts. So just to give you a little information on the Women's Veterinary Leadership Development Initiative. They're here to support women in seeking and achieving leadership, policy, and decision-making positions within all areas of the profession. And it's their vision to develop leaders for the benefit of the profession and to deliver on the promise of veterinary medicine to society. And in the past, we've offered webinars, and they've also given classes and seminars. And there was just a summit this past week and the past month in Vegas. So they are supported by a number of sponsors, and they have a Facebook page if you wish to learn more. Just go on to Women's Veterinary Leadership Development Initiative at WVLDI and see what's going on and all the upcoming events. And they also have an informative website. So please check those out to learn more about their organization and all the wonderful things that they're doing for men and women within the veterinary community. We need to thank our sponsors, as you know. So our sponsors during this year are the AVMA, Boehringer Ingelheim, Banfield, Beyond Indigo Pets, who are helping us with this webinar now, and Social DVM, Dr. Caitlin DeWilder. And they couldn't provide these wonderful services and offer all of these classes without their support. So on to the presentation. I'm Rebecca Rose. I'm a certified veterinary technician in Colorado, and I've been in the community for 30 years as a credentialed technician. And in that time, you can only imagine how things have changed and morphed and grown. But I am happy to be here, and it's an honor to be supporting WVLDI in this manner. So today's topics include what is professional etiquette? It seems to be a simple question, but it has a lot of connotations. The expectations, and what does that look like within the veterinary hospital or beyond? First impressions, because we are always making first impressions. Engaging with clients and team members around presentations and bringing your best foot forward as a professional. And what does this look like when writing correspondences or reaching out into social media? We'll speak a little bit on confidentiality and patient information, because I tend to think that within a veterinary hospital, we overlook this at times. We'll be giving you more resources at the end and also having a Q&A session. So thanks again for joining us. We appreciate you being here. So as we mentioned earlier, what is professional etiquette? I actually had to go on and research it. You know, we talk about professionalism and we talk about how do we treat each other on the veterinary team or our clients, but this whole idea of etiquette kind of intrigued me. So I'm going to be reading a piece from our handout, which you have available to you. This handout, I recommend you read it to your clients or pardon me, to your team members, and even using this as a way in a team meeting to bring these conversations up. So here's a quote out of the handout. In spite of its importance, we rarely ask ourselves how professionalism develops. We don't ask how people become professional. We simply take it for granted that almost everyone does, in fact, become a professional. We seem to assume that professionalism is somehow inculcated in each of us as an integral part of our upbringing. Unfortunately, this is not the case. Perhaps the most striking thing about professionalism is that people need a definition to recognize it, but don't need anything at all to recognize its absence. So think about that. We all know when people aren't behaving professionally, but we rarely identify or define what a professional is. And I pulled this from the Goals Institute in Professionalism, the Decline of a Critical Set of Behaviors. So why is professionalism possibly seen as a decline or being more elusive now than what it has been in the past? There have actually been studies done on this, and I thought this was pretty profound. But it seems that professional etiquette is a simple question, but it has very many different connotations. So professional etiquette may refer to attending a dinner meeting and how do you present yourself there, or possibly professional attitudes and attributes that an employer may be looking for, and certainly how you see yourself or represent yourself in the veterinary community in organized medicine are all places to consider professional etiquette. Christy Lorette, she wrote an article in the Business Etiquette and Professionalism, and it says, etiquette allows you to present yourself in a polished, professional, and polite manner. Polished, professional, polite. It encourages others to take you seriously. And isn't that what we all want? For us to be seen as professionals, to be taken seriously in our positions, and to be respected for what we bring to the table in our education, the experiences we have had, and what we bring to our clients as well. So in this recent study, it was done at the York College, their research revealed that fewer than half of all businesses have programs that specifically address professionalism of a new employee. Now, isn't that strange? That in the realm of colleges, they don't offer professionalism as a course. Over 90% of the human resource professionals and managers surveyed believe that colleges, not the businesses, should be responsible for the development of professionalism. So isn't that odd? Now there's the gap. There's the gap. So who is responsible for instilling professionalism in employees? Is it the responsibility of the parents? Does it fall on the schools and the colleges? Or does it really fall on the shoulders of the small business? And I'd have to say that the rubber hits the road in the small businesses, and that speaking with our teams on professionalism is truly a manager or a leader's role within that business. So that's where we're going with this. I'm curious what your take might be on that. Now, we may think and visualize a professional in a three-piece suit, which is fine, and that does occur. But I would also like for you to look at this wonderful photo of this wonderful veterinarian. This is Dr. Tim Holt, and I worked with him for many years. And this is the essence of who he is. And yet he is probably one of the most professional, respected, highly sought after veterinarians in our region. And he's received many awards. Zoetis actually just gave him an award recently. But look at this and embrace these ideas in professionalism as being childlike. Now, I'm not talking childish, totally different, but childlike in the curiosity and the awe and the wonder of who we are, what we do within veterinary medicine and in our life. So keep all of this in balance, because I believe as professionals, we can bring all of this to the table. So let's continue down this idea of expectations and what that is. And you're here because you are being proactive and that you are wanting to improve and increase your professionalism, because you probably know and understand that in all we do, communications with our teams, communications with our clients, interactions at the veterinary community and public awareness, that it's through professionalism that we make that impact. But while we're working within veterinary hospitals, those expectations and professionalism may be outlined in your employee handbook. And what I've noticed in most employee handbooks, it's the shall not series of outlines. So there could be a code of conduct, as an example, in your employee handbook. And this may be what your managers refer to as being professionals. But I'm going to read to you what most employee handbooks say. Because your conduct is so very important to your success and that of the hospital, you are expected to maintain the highest standards of personal and professional conduct, right? Following is a list of things that could lead to disciplinary actions. See, they go directly to disciplinary actions. Those could be lying on the employment application or any other time during employment, while on hospital property, being under the influence of alcoholic beverages or illegal drugs, destruction or damage of hospital property, disregarding safety regulations, and usually the list just goes on. Now remember, the code of conduct is typically around what not to do. So what I'm suggesting is that we turn this around, and with the team, we create a list of what we should be doing and what we do value in professionalism. So consider this, that we respect and value professionalism, period. This is often the highest priority when I speak with teams, and they want to be respected. And I explain to them that respect begets respect. But that's also one of those big terms. It encompasses so many things. But as we continue down this list, we typically value timeliness, being on time, and sobriety. We value cheerful attitudes, honesty, and that you with your team may want to create this positive spin on professionalism and then be able to put that into your employee handbook, or use this as even an outline when you're hiring new employees. Do they respect and value the same things in professionalism? So consider that. Things that we value in professionalism. Here we go with the topic of first impressions, and you are always making first impressions. Even when you came on to this webinar and you saw how we were presenting ourselves, you were making impressions about this program. So consider how many times in a day you're making a first impression. Now, you may see clients once every year, twice a year, hopefully, but every time you introduce yourself, consider that as being another first impression. Consider how many times you're making first impressions with your team members. I was just speaking with one of my team members yesterday, and she made the perfect example here in that every day we bring a new character to the veterinary hospital with us. Sometimes as a team member, we're grouchy, we're having a bad day. This is perfectly evident in the way we present ourselves in that day. So our team members are looking at us as first impressions too, like, whoa, that person's having a bad day, I think I'll stay away from them. So think about this. One time I was on an airplane, and I actually sat next to someone who did become a future employee or employer, pardon me. And this again, we never know where our next opportunities are coming from, and always putting forth a good positive first impression can lead to a great new job. We also have first impressions in the veterinary medicine. So down here is a picture of veterinarians who recently graduated from veterinary school, and now they are in a Power of 10 program up in Pennsylvania. They're continually making first impressions within organized medicine and growing their career in professionalism. So these are all things to consider. I bring about this idea of future clients in the grocery store because oftentimes we'll be standing in line having a grumbly day, and we meet somebody in line, and exchange conversations, and they may in the future be a client. So consider all of these things. First impressions, constantly throughout our career, throughout our day. So let's talk about engaging with team members. We've discussed this in many ways already, but let's really highlight some things. So when you're dealing with your team members, treat people with courtesy, politeness, and kindness. And isn't this true in all that we do? And certainly true with people that we spend 40 hours a week with. Encourage your coworkers to express their opinions and ideas. And listen to what they have to say. Listening is an aspect of professionalism at its highest level. Most of the time we think to communicate is to verbalize, but in all actuality, to properly listen and engage in fully listening is actually hugely respectful. And never speak in or butt in or cut off another person. And I know, especially if you're on a telephone call, that's a really difficult thing to do, but be cognizant of that when you are in a meeting or a setting or speaking with clients. And embrace the ideas that your team members have in creating a better work environment, and then help them implement that. So along this idea of dealing with and engaging with teams, never insult people, never name call or put other people down or their ideas. So create a wonderfully supportive environment to work in. And this is a big one, this last piece here. Do not nitpick, constantly criticize or belittle. Within the veterinary hospital, being good at receiving and giving feedback and having that volley of information is hugely important to our success. So don't nitpick. And obviously, if this is continues, that it could be considered bullying. So these are ways to engage with your team members in a professional manner. Plus all of those other things we mentioned in thou shall, be on time, be ready to work, be cheerful, all of those things. So look at this very similar situations with engaging with the clients. So obviously treat clients and people with courtesy, politeness, and kindness. Again, top of the list. Thank the clients for entrusting them with your pet. Thank them for being there and for coming in. Again, listen to what they have to say about their pet and their lifestyle. And oftentimes, it's in those stories that we learn more of how we can serve them and meet their needs. Greet them with confidence. That's, hi, I'm Rebecca Rose. I'm a certified veterinary technician. I'll be helping Dr. Caesar today in the exam room with your pet here, Snickerdoodles. But introduce yourself. Give that firm handshake. Be confident in that and confident in who you are. And regardless of who you are in that veterinary team. Again, never insult or put down their ideas or certainly the questions that they have. And with clients, do not judge them for the treatments that they choose or choose not to do. We're not here to judge them. We're here to help that pet and offering the best pet care that we can. So we're breezing through a number of topics, and there's so much more to this. So keep in mind, you'll have the notes and the resources to accompany this program. All right, moving on to this idea of correspondences that are written. And aren't we just overloaded with the ways that we can present ourselves professionally or equally unprofessionally within these platforms? So we have emails, social media, texting, Instagram, and the list goes on. Did you ever think about all of the ways that you are representing yourself as a professional or unprofessionally in these places? So oftentimes we are very busy and we're responding quickly and we're multitasking like this young lady is here in this picture. But I encourage you, in all times and places when it's related to social media or writing emails, can read it and consider, is this thoughtful or thoughtless? Is this considerate or inconsiderate? Those are pretty simple questions, but I think they really help us identify, is this what I want to say? Is this coming across the right way? Because these are around for a lifetime. And you might say, oh, it's not public. I'm in a closed group, or I'm on this is only going to be here for 30 seconds and then gone. Well, that's not true. What we put into our electronic writings and electronic media is there for a lifetime. I would like for you to consider, since we're talking about professionalism in the veterinary community, is take a look at your LinkedIn profile and really consider, are you putting your best foot forward in this realm of linking in, especially with other professionals within our community and beyond. So I went on and I took a look at how Bridget's profile looks, and Dr. Caesar, and here's Caitlin and mine, and really look at yours. And is it a crisp, clean picture? Consider this as being your handshake. And these folks are looking at you as a first impression. Are the recommendations on there solid? Do you show yourself as a leader within your community or within the veterinary medical associations or technician associations that you're working with? Have you written articles? So really consider this as being a first impression often. I'm looking at this more often, I can tell you that. People will reach out to me, and in order for me to be able to relate to them, I go to their professional LinkedIn profile frequently. I probably visit 3 a day. If you don't have one, I would suggest that you get one, regardless of your place in the veterinary team. And if you're a veterinarian, to certainly have one that is up to date and shows that you are professional and engaged in so many different things. So the next topic is confidentiality and patient information. I don't think we consider this often enough, even though it may be something written in our handbooks. But consider, even when you go to your human hospital, that we are governed at that point, and human hospitals are governed by HIPAA, which is the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. Now, we're not bound to that in the veterinary sense and in veterinary hospitals, but we are still held to strict confidentiality in employees' record keeping, the client's information, and patient information. So within your employee handbook, you may have a confidentiality or a confidential policy. And this is a good time to refer to that with your manager and your teams. I want to tell a story about my mother. And you may think, well, why your mom? Well, my stepfather owns and operates a veterinary hospital. And at this point in time, I was helping him manage it. And I did go over our policy for confidentiality with my team, but I never considered having to do this with my mother. And one time a receptionist came up to me and said, "Oh, Rebecca, I heard your mother in the grocery store," remember back to that grocery store piece, and she was speaking with a client about confidential items. And you can only imagine, I flipped a lid. I was like, oh my gracious, how am I going to deal with this with my mom? So I went to my stepfather and I said, "Dr. Johnson, what I'd like to do is bring Ruth in here and have her sign a confidentiality form." So we did. And I brought this to my mother's attention and I said, "Now, Mom, if you were a team member and this had occurred and I became privy to it, you would be getting your walking papers because this is serious." And she wasn't so happy in the moment, but she understood, and I had her sign that. And I hope you find that a little funny, but in all seriousness, what we do in record keeping for our employees and confidentiality for our clients and our patients is very important and extremely serious. So again, this might be a good time to have a conversation with your manager or teams about confidentiality. So here's a brief snip from possible employee handbooks. The statement may include, "All employees will be expected to exercise the greatest caution and concern in the protection of any information that is of confidential nature." So elaborate on that. This is a good time around professional etiquette to bring this into the conversation. Very good. We're starting to wrap this up, so be sure to forward questions in the chat, and Rachel or will forward those to me. But there are upcoming WVLDI events, and as I mentioned earlier, they have had the women's retreat and summit in Las Vegas recently. Continue to seek classes in communication because that's what this is all about. Body language, articulating, listening, expressing yourself in a way that is received by the other person through their communication styles. This in and itself is a week-long program. There's opportunities for in-hospital training. What we've just created now can be emulated with your veterinary team. And in the handout, there will be more links to drive you to videos and classes that might be pertinent to you and your teams in professional etiquette. So you've got this. You now see and understand what professional etiquette is, possibly where those gaps are, how colleges and schools are not necessarily educating or having classes in professionalism, and that's why it falls on the shoulders of our small businesses and veterinary hospitals to have these conversations and to groom our team members in professional etiquette. Continue to elaborate on what we value as professionals and that we are continually making first impressions. Remind yourself frequently that professional etiquette is something that we bring forth to our clients and with our teams. And in the realm of electronic responses, consider, is this thoughtless or thoughtful before you send it? And is this considerate or inconsiderate before you send it? And please have a conversation or think about confidentiality. And this goes beyond veterinary hospitals. This can go even into sometimes working with national organizations and holding some of the things that are in the works as confidential. So here's a list of upcoming webinars that continue to grow on this idea. So the next webinar will be Emotional Intelligence, Grow Your Self-Awareness, and that will be on September 7th. And you'll see that these webinars do expand upon each other. So today we talked about professional etiquette and who and what that looks like, the traits of a professional. And are you bringing forth the most positive, cheerful, honest character that you can? And then moving into the emotional intelligence, the self-awareness, even further diving into that. Later on, the fall series will include Know Your Self-Worth and having the confidence to negotiate a walk away, or just to negotiate a raise or negotiate more responsibilities or duties within your place on the veterinary team. So again, we have gone through a lot of material rather quickly. Hopefully you have some questions that we can wrap up this session in. So Rachel and Will, are there questions that our participants may have for me?
I don't see any questions yet, but if anyone has any questions, please type them into, there's a Q&A box on your Zoom window. So just type them in and we'll be able to see them and get them answered for you.
Super. Well, I think since we're speaking on the Women's Veterinary Leadership Development Initiative, and this is created in the aspect of organized medicine, consider that. So when you get on that plane because you're going to a conference or you're going to a meeting or even something that's locally or more national, within that meeting space, how will you be presenting yourself? Those first impressions. And we make first impressions within 4 to 10 seconds. And we're judged by, unfortunately, how we dress and how we stand and how we have eye contact. All of that is perceived in the moment. And 4 seconds is not very long to make a first impression. And the idea that walking into the veterinary hospital or walking into any type of professional service, that in that introduction, in that day, we have an opportunity to make that first impression again.
We do have a question here from Sue. She just says she would like the link to these handouts. She says this is great stuff, and I certainly agree on that. And we're going to make sure that the handouts and a link to the recording of the session come out to you very shortly. Are there any other questions?
Fantastic. All right.
It looks like that might be it for questions.
Okay. Oops. Well, thank you so much for participating in this. It's been a pleasure, and feel free to reach out to me. You'll have that information on your handouts, and be sure to participate and join the Women's Veterinary Leadership Development Initiative on their Facebook page and check out their website as well. Thanks again and have a great day.